Okay, so last week I was able to finish the floor framing, and we should be able to get this insulated, sealed up, and start working on the walls. So let's get to it. Okay, so here what I've done is I've cut a channel down just to the right of that left, or to the left of that right wheel well, and I've started to lay in my insulation. And what this is 1 inch thick, it's really 3/4 of an inch, styrofoam slips, and I'm doubling them up to make it 1.5 inches thick. And I'm going to fill that up, and then I'm going to seal this up with the wiring having gone through. So here I've got my wiring through on both ends for my taillights, and I've got the insulation complete, and I'm ready to seal that up. Okay, I've got the floor all sealed up, so now you've got, it's probably about 2 inches thick now, the flooring, and I've got my wheel wells all sealed up as well. So now I took the floor off of the trailer, brought it out here into the yard on top of a tarp, and I'm waterproofing the bottom with Henry's roof coat, and it's a tar-based roof coating, so that should do a really good job of keeping the underside of the camper nice and dry. And while I've got the floor off, I thought I would tackle another problem that I had. I had a couple of lug nuts missing and one complete lug missing. So I pounded out the other lugs, and I took them down to an auto parts store to see if I could get one additional lug and then all of the lug nuts replaced. And they couldn't find any that matched. In fact, he said that the lug nuts or the lug bolts that I had didn't even match each other. So I mean, this thing was just a complete disaster. I would take a lug nut off of one bolt and it wouldn't fit on another. So I just said, give me a complete new set for both hubs, and I went ahead and installed those. And here you can see all the brand new lug bolts and lug nuts, and it looks a lot nicer, and it's complete now. So I can get back to work on the camper. I brought the floor back over and bolted it back onto the trailer frame, and I boxed in the wheel wells, and I'm not sure why I did that. I think my thought process was so that I'd have something square to put my flooring up against, but those wheel wells are going to be inside benches anyway, so you're not even going to see them. So that was pretty much a wasted effort, but hey, it's fine. So here's another look at kind of a side view. You can see kind of how big the floor is, and at this point it's 8 feet long and 6 feet wide. All right, so I had to cover it up. I've been covering it up with a tarp at the end of each day that I'm working on it, because there's always a looming rainstorm, and I'm just nervous. I don't want to get any of it wet and damaged, so I just cover it up at the end of every day. Okay, so here I'm starting to build out my frame, and for some reason I thought it would be easier to build the frame on the patio and then just lift it up onto the camper, and that wasn't too bad. You can see here where I've kind of framed around the wheel wells on the bottom, and I've got that little angle towards the front, and I did that to kind of create a little bit of a wind funnel. I don't know, windbreak, I don't know what you call it, but just so that it would be a little bit more aerodynamic. Plus, I thought it looked cool. All right, here is one more shot before I'm getting ready to tip it up and pull it up onto the trailer. All right, so I got it up on the trailer, and surprisingly, everything fit. It was 8 feet long and 6 feet wide, and the wheel well cutouts were in the right place. So you can see that I put a couple of strips on each side just for stability. A couple of, I think that's fiberboard, just little 4-inch strips. Worked out pretty well. Here's another view from the front. And at this point, I'm probably going to start building my kickouts. But before that, I wanted to install this tongue jack. So I got a new tongue jack, and I needed one that was tall enough because the trailer's pretty far off the ground. It's a couple of feet actually. It's over 24 inches off the ground. So I got this 36-inch tongue jack, and seems to work just fine. And I also wanted to put stabilizer jacks on the front and the back. So I have a total of 4. And these just, they have like a toe release that will either lock it in place or release it, and then you just fold it up underneath the camper. Those worked out really well. Okay, so here you can see that I've started and actually finished the front bump out, and I've started to put together the rear bump out as well. And it's not exactly a mirror image of the front, and I did that on purpose, and I'll explain why a little bit later. Okay, here's just another view. You can kind of see where I've have the door framed in, the doorway. And you can't really tell where the windows are yet, but as soon as I start putting the plywood siding on, you'll be able to see that. Okay, here we are. I've got completely framed. The back bump out is complete. The front bump out is complete. And those are 18 inches in the front and the rear, so it added 3 feet to the overall length. So I went from 8 feet long to 11 feet long. And here's a look from the other side. And that you're looking at the rear of the camper from this vantage point. And you can see when I moved the camper forward that the wheels are actually closer to the rear now instead of closer to the front. And just for kicks, one more view. Okay, so here I'm starting to install the siding, and when you're doing this by yourself, clamps can be your friend. So I actually clamped a board along the bottom that it's resting on, you'll see that in a minute, and then clamped it to the frame in a couple of places. And then I took a pencil and traced the outline of the camper shell, and that way I could remove this and cut it, and it'd be a perfect fit. So here you can see that board that I had clamped to the underside, and that panel's just resting on it. Okay, so here I have one side done, and you can see that clamp and trace method worked out really well. It makes it look like I really know what I'm doing, but really I'm just good at tracing. And here you can see I countersunk each of the screws that I'm using to hold these panels on, and I did that because I'm going to come back, fill those, and paint the camper. So I wasn't worried about that being countersunk. Okay, here's another view. One of the questions that I got a lot of is how come I painted each, why is there black paint all over this? And essentially I was always nervous that it was going to be raining and before I could get this thing covered. So I always painted the edges at the end of the day and painted any of the joints just so that it would be a little bit more waterproof. And I don't know if that actually works, but it makes me feel better, so that's why I'm doing it. Okay, now from this vantage point, you can see that window cutout on that one side, and I'm getting ready to start siding on the other side. So here we go. I've got both sides completely sided. You can see the doorway and both of the windows now, and I've started to side up the front. And here's another side view. You can see I've got all 4 of the stabilizer jacks down, and that really makes a big difference. You get up inside this thing and it doesn't move at all in any direction. It's really nice. Here's a couple more views. And that's how far I was able to get this week. So we'll wrap this one up and we'll get back on it in the next video. So I'll talk to you guys later.